as the bargain successor for the NERI negotiations.
We have a second. I'll second it. All in favor, signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Motion number 2 is motion to appoint Bob Hanley as interim Public Works Director.
Second. Signify by raising your hand.
Aye. Motion number 3 is motion to respond not to agree with the Whitehall condo request.
Second. You have a motion to second. All in favor, signify by raising your hand.
Aye. Okay, motion to seal the executive session minutes.
Second.
We have a motion second to seal. All in favor, raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Motion, we're going to take a recess?
No.
We're going right into the presentation.
How can you?
We can, that's how we posted it.
We posted it that way, Council Von Villas.
All right.
So we could go right into it.
Okay.
Indicating that we'd maybe have some time.
Okay.
Item number 2, memorandum of policy, Chairman, Planning Board. Analysts of the full build traffic and environmental impact study.
Motion to begin said presentation.
Second. We have a motion and a second to begin. All in favor, please raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I see Mr. Wolanski's on with us.
Hey, Ron.
Good evening. How are you?
Steve? Okay.
Steve Cabral is here. Yep.
Hello, everyone.
See you tonight.
It's good to see you all.
Okay. 30 minutes, gentlemen. Go right ahead.
All right. Start the clock. Well, thanks for this opportunity. As you know, that this effort's been going on for over a year now, where the planning board came to the town council to request the ability to have this study completed to evaluate development in town and the impacts that it has on the town's natural resources and traffic. So I'm going to start sharing my screen, hopefully. Let's see if we can get the slides to start. All right, can you all see the slides full screen now?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
So I'm going to start with a few slides, and then I'm going to turn it over to Steve to get into the meat of the matter. So Paul Croce, Chairman of the Planning Board, asked me to provide the presentation to you. So that's why I'm speaking tonight rather than Paul. And the purpose of the study, as I just mentioned, was to evaluate the impacts of development in town. And then following up on the results, the next step is to evaluate what opportunity there is to address potential impacts, whether it's through modifications to the town regulations or the comprehensive plan. So at the end of the presentation, I think the action item that's being requested by the planning board through the memo from the chairman is for the council to authorize the planning board to continue its work in reviewing the recommendations, the findings and the recommendations of the study, and to return back to the council with some specific implementation items to address the impacts, putting forward some of the recommendations that are being proposed. So I don't have a resolution on the docket tonight, but that's essentially what we're asking, what the planning board is asking for the council tonight, is to authorize them to proceed in that way. So the project scope, as I mentioned, was to do a complete build out analysis and evaluate the impacts on surface water, groundwater, and traffic impacts. And this was a town-wide evaluation. The build out methodology, it was based on the current zoning. So the numbers that I'll show in a little bit is based on what the current zoning would allow. We also looked at some scenarios that might come into play if the town chose to, such as rezoning certain areas, for example, R40 and R60, perhaps to R100, excluding the ability to develop or subdivide, I should say, residential, marginal residential lots, and then also look at potentially excluding development in the zone 1 of the watershed protection district. So just quickly, this is our future land use plan from the comp plan. I know you're all familiar with this. On the right-hand side, the east side of town is the lower impact or lower density development areas, R40 and R60. And then, of course, on the west side of town is where you have our commercial areas and higher density residential. And our zoning, obviously, or maybe not obviously, but thankfully, is consistent with our comp plan in that it has areas zoned R40 and R60, where the low density development is proposed in the comp plan, and as I just said, on the west side of town, higher density development. This map shows our utilities, the extent of utilities in town. So on the east side of town, that sort of peach color, that's where we do not have public sewer or water. On the right-hand side, that purplish tone is where we do have sewer and water. And then the blue and green shaded areas are where we have either sewer or water, but not both. So I don't think this is a surprise to anybody. This map shows our Zone 1 Watershed Protection District areas. So as I mentioned earlier, that's one of the scenarios we looked at, is potentially further restricting development in those areas. So that's the blue areas along our streams and rivers, and then the red areas, which are the hydric soils, which are also technically part of Zone 1. So some of the assumptions that were used in doing the build-out analysis, residential development was based on looking at undeveloped land and the potential to further subdivide. We excluded wetlands and we excluded conservation areas from that analysis. For the commercial build-out, we looked at further developing existing developed lots. Well, certainly any undeveloped lots, but we also looked at additional development potential on properties that might already be developed to some extent. And then for the mixed use development, we looked at as a scenario, 35% of these mixed use developments being retail, 35% residential, and about 30% office, just to gauge what a mixed use development might look like. So getting right to the numbers, the residential full build results in approximately 1,900 new residential units in town based on current zoning. So we currently have almost 7,800 residential units, and that's single family, multifamily, all residential units. And looking at the zoning districts on the left, you can see that the numbers are pretty distributed throughout the zoning districts, although the R40 does have more potential for additional development than some of the other districts. But again, total of about 1,900 total additional units, residential dwelling units that could be built based on current zoning. And I'll just mention that the land trust, the Aquidneck Land Trust, did a build out analysis about the same time that we were doing our work, using different firms and a little bit of different approach, but they came up with a very similar result in terms of the number of units that might result at build out. So that was a good check on what we were doing. This is just a chart showing the breakdown of where these new units in terms of the zoning districts would come. I'm going to flip through this really quickly, but this presentation will be on the website as of tomorrow, on the planning department website. So members of the public will be able to get to it. And of course, council members will have a chance to review this more closely afterwards. This map is showing the parcels that were identified through the build out, parcels that have the ability to support additional development. So the colors aren't the greatest because it's hard to see, but the gray area, the gray parcels on the east side of town are those that could support additional residential development. Actually, I guess it's that beige color. And then of course the brighter colors on the west side of town are the commercial areas and higher density residential. So we did go through the effort of actually identifying where these additional units and commercial developments could potentially happen. So talking more about the scenarios. So again, under full build, we're looking at about 1,900 additional residential units. If we look at marginal lots, and these are lots that are large enough to be subdivided into maybe one or two additional lots in terms of area, but they don't have the frontage needed to do those additional lots. But oftentimes there's some relief granted, zoning relief granted to allow further subdivision. So if we were to assume that we weren't going to allow further subdivision of those marginal lots. That does reduce the number of units somewhat by a couple of hundred units. Looking at potentially rezoning R40 and R60 districts to R100 would also reduce the number of units by about 300. And if we were to exclude Watershed Protection District number 1, that's about 280 units that the build-out could be reduced by. If you were to implement all 3 of those scenarios, and we're not necessarily recommending that these are scenarios that should be adopted, it was just looked at as what the impact would be. You'd look at reducing the number of units down to about 1,200 units. It's not additive. You don't total these up because there's some overlap. Marginal lots might also be zone 1 lots, so it doesn't add up quite the way you might think it would. So those are some scenarios of what development we would see under those scenarios. Commercial development. We found that there's an additional perhaps 2.5 million square feet of additional commercial development that could happen on existing zoned commercial lands. And this is, again, general business, office business, limited business, all the commercial zones. And the chart breaks it up into each of those types of development. If you were to impose that Watershed Protection District number 1 scenario, you would reduce that by about 500,000 square feet of commercial space. And this is just a chart showing that. And I think now I'm going to turn it over to Steve. I'm going to ask Steve to start sharing his screen.
Oh, good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Cabral with Crossman Engineering. And what I'm going to do tonight is just briefly discuss some of the highlights of the surface water, groundwater, and traffic findings from the full build study. Okay, now what we have here is a map of Aquidneck Island. And if we look at the Middletown area, there's a major section of the town that's shaded light blue. And the reason for the light blue is that just delineates the section of the town that actually drains into the Newport water supply watershed. So the streams and all of the lands within the blue area are very critical when it comes to the drinking water supply, as well as the environment around those streams. And as you know, the major streams would be Bailey Brook, the Maidford River, and Paradise Brook. Now, some of the highlights, or some of the findings that you may be well aware of, is that approximately 60% of the town is within the drinking water supply of Newport. And Middletown, that watershed actually represents 77% of the watershed draining into the Newport water supply. So that in itself is a sign that Middletown has a very bigger impact on Aquidneck Island and the health and safety of all of the residents that rely upon the Newport water supply. The first thing we did, once we've identified the limits of the watershed, we identified where are all of the streams and watersheds discharging to. And the reason is we needed to evaluate what environment, what ponds, what wetlands could be potentially impacted. One thing that we found right away is that all of the streams within the Newport drinking water supply watershed already have a designation of being impaired for different pollutants. And those pollutants could be nutrients like phosphorus, nitrogen, and some of them are actually impaired by fecal coliform and other bacteria. So even though our mission was to assess the potential impacts from new development, it was evident that we also need to address the impacts of the current development, because otherwise, as new development occurs, we're only going to compound the problems that exist today. And with new development, of course, there's always new impervious, and it's well known that along with new impervious, you will get more runoff, peak higher peak flows, higher runoff volume, you have higher pollutant loadings, and you decrease groundwater recharge. So not only did we try to address potential future conditions, we also tried to incorporate the fact that there are existing conditions. And because of the time, I won't go through each screen in detail, but basically we've identified each of the main water bodies and streams and identified what those current deficiencies are, or water quality impairments. And for example, Bailey's Brook is impaired with total phosphorus, which impacts the, it creates algal blooms and ponds. And you also have bacteria issues in Bailey Brook. And again, I won't go through each one. What history tells us nationwide is that the amount of imperviousness in a watershed is a good indication of the quality of the wetlands and receiving waters. And the general rule of thumb that's been developed over many years is that once the imperviousness of a watershed reaches 10%, you could expect that there'll be an impact on the natural environment from the added imperviousness. And as development expands and reaches the level of 25% impervious, it's very common that those wetlands and water bodies have now reached the point where they're actually degraded. And what this screen shows is the blue represents the existing imperviousness in each of the primary watersheds throughout the town. The red represents the additional imperviousness that theoretically will occur at full build. And what you can see at full build, we have the Lower East Passage 1, Lower East Passage 2, the Bailey Brook, and the Atlantic 1 watershed. And if you wanted to see where those are, those were depicted on one of the earlier slides. So what this tells us automatically is that we could expect these watersheds to have impairments that would need to be addressed. And as we know, the Bailey, the Maidford, the Paradise watersheds, even though their imperviousness are relatively low, they are already impaired today. Okay, what these slides show, on the left, we have a depiction of the amount of imperviousness that exists today. The darker shade represents the higher amount of impervious, like the Bailey Brook watershed is the darkest. And the Paradise Brook watershed is very light. That represents that it has the lowest degree of imperviousness under current conditions. Now, if we quickly glance to the right side of the screen, you see that the shading throughout the town is much darker. So that indicates that throughout the town, you will have measurable increases in imperviousness, and especially the Lower East Passage up at the upper left corner. And even in the eastern side of town, the Maidford and Secana 1 watersheds are now approaching the 10 to 25% range. Okay, what we did, we quickly did a pollutant loading analysis for various pollutants of concern. And what these slides show you is the theoretical percent change in total phosphorus loading for each of the watersheds. So I'll just go through these quickly. And basically, when we discuss nutrients, there will be some slides where there's a decrease, and that can be expected if the land use is changing from agricultural to a residential or commercial use. So total phosphorus, you can see there are impacts at some of the watersheds and a decrease in others. Similar to phosphorus, for nitrogen, it goes up over 15% in the Lower East Passage watershed, but it does decrease in Maidford and others. Total suspended solids, that's a very common measurable pollutant of concern, and that's certainly directly correlated with imperviousness. And throughout almost all of the watersheds, you see that there's a measurable increase. The same with fecal coliform, there's significant increases throughout much of the watersheds. Lead and copper, those are common pollutants of concern in urbanized areas. And of course, you may wonder where the source could be. It could be coming from automobiles or just deterioration of metal products throughout the watershed. Stormwater runoff volume, that's a concern for Middletown as well as every community. And you can see that the overall volume in some watersheds increases by up to 20%. So of course, current and proposed stormwater mitigation methodologies can address certainly the stormwater runoff volume and peak flow issues. Okay, surface water impacts. Basically, we've developed a handful of recommendations that we'll hope to discuss further with the planning board. But a few of those recommendations would be to consider updating the stormwater ordinance, which is really, it has standards that are applied evenly town-wide. Based upon the findings and uniqueness of each of the watersheds, we recommend that consideration be given to fine-tuning the stormwater ordinance so that it's more of a watershed specific, so that say in the Bailey Brook or Paradise watershed, there could be a specific requirement to mitigate certain pollutants of concern. And the reason we recommend that is the current standards, even at the state level, are really very generic and broad-based. Some of the other options, we would recommend that consideration be given to developing a fertilizer nutrient control ordinance. And if not an ordinance, we would recommend an educational program just to make homeowners aware of the impacts of putting in that added fertilizer. Let's see, other recommendations. It would really be great for future understanding, and when funds are being considered for stormwater improvements, if the town had a better understanding of which areas of town had if they had actual data on specific pollutants of concern. So one option would be to consider having a water quality testing program throughout the community, so that the town wouldn't have to rely upon periodic DEM sampling. The town could actually have maybe a group of volunteers just taking samples through various of the stormwater systems. One of the benefits would be that we could have actual data of some of the primary, we'll say, detention ponds or stormwater mitigation systems and streams. So we could identify what the inflow water quality is and what the outflow water quality is. And that would allow the town to better allocate their funds in the future as they pursue water quality projects. Another suggestion would be to, when funds allow, consider retrofitting existing stormwater systems. And what's meant by that is there are some standard drainage systems that solely mitigate peak flow, but with minor retrofits, it may be possible to provide additional water quality benefits. So we would recommend that that be considered. And last but not least, as we've discussed last year, would be consideration being given for a stormwater utility to help fund some of the potential improvements. Okay, the next topic I'll quickly address would be potential groundwater impacts from full build development. The first thing is we looked at the soil conditions throughout the town. And as you know, Middletown has a very silty, low permeable surface layer, or till soil, as it's commonly referred to. And that till layer is on top of a very dense sedimentary rock, which has very limiting groundwater carrying capacity. Okay, one of the first things we wanted to do is take a look at the amount of recharge that occurs in the bedrock. And the reason for that is we found that currently there are about 1,100 families that depend upon drinking water wells. And based upon the locations of the new homes, we anticipate that there'll be up to 500 more private wells that would be installed. So we just wanted to take a quick look at the amount of recharge that could be anticipated into the bedrock to see if this development is going to impact the recharge levels and impact the ability to service those future wells. So we went through the process. We computed recharge under current conditions, under full build conditions, and without getting into detail, basically it comes down to, with more impervious surfaces, you decrease the ability of the soil to actually infiltrate. Okay, and what we have here is just a quantification of all the wells within different watersheds. The blue represents the existing, the red represents the additional wells that would be needed. And as you suspect, the new private wells would mostly be on the eastern side of town. The next step is based upon census data and an assumption that each home would vary from 2.5 to 5 people per home. We performed an analysis to determine the amount of water that would be consumed in the wells. Then we compared that to the actual recharge that's anticipated. And we did find that theoretically there will be sufficient recharge into the bedrock to support the wells. The problem with that is that the bedrock wells, which is what Middletown has to rely upon, is the bedrock wells don't always have full access to all of that groundwater. The bedrock wells depend upon the ability for that well drill to actually hit a fissure that can adequately convey water. So even though theoretically there is ample water going into the bedrock wells, there will always be a concern that a well may not hit the appropriate fissure. Okay, the next issue, in addition to the groundwater quantity, we also took a look at the groundwater quality. So one of the key components was the number of septic systems on site. And basically what we've done is for each subwatershed, we identified the existing septic systems and the proposed additional septic systems. And in general, there'd be well over 500 additional septic systems. And then similar to the surface water quality, we also took a look at the pollutant loading into the groundwater due to those septic systems. And we looked at, for example, nitrate level. That's one of the primary concerns with septic system effluent. The concern is, what is the nitrate loading in the groundwater, because elevated nitrate levels can impact the health of residents. The thresholds are typically 5 milligrams per liter would be basically a warning sign. That's a sign when a community should begin taking active measures to ensure that the levels don't get higher. 10 would be the absolute maximum level that's allowed in groundwater. This slide shows the existing conditions, and the proposed shows the theoretical nitrate loading under full build conditions. So you can see that there are a couple of watersheds that do deserve attention as development proceeds. When it comes to the recommendations, these recommendations solely pertain to the groundwater impacts. What we really recommend would be if the town could consider a groundwater quality testing program. And that could be just working with the homeowners and taking samples from their wells. And that would allow the town to have a current and up-to-date assessment of the actual water quality conditions throughout the town. And the reason I say that is the analysis that we performed is a theoretical analysis based upon typical pollutant loadings of a single-family home. But the community and the residents would really benefit if we had actual data. Another recommendation that we have, and this is really a shortfall that I believe the state has, and that's that there's minimal regulation when it comes to private drinking wells. Now, the state has a very strict program when it comes to enforcing the quality of public water systems like Newport water system. But when it comes to the quality of private wells, that, as I said, there's 1,100 wells throughout Middletown today. The quality of that well is really up to that homeowner. And the concern is that not all homeowners are aware that they really should take an active role in monitoring the quality of their wells. And so we would recommend, again, it's no ordinance that's required in regards to this, but just a good educational outreach program in recommending that homeowners, like I said, take an active role in taking those water quality samples. And then the town could work with them to maintain a database. Another recommendation would be the stormwater standards that the town has does require a certain degree of recharge for every degree of imperviousness that occurs, but occasionally there are applicants that seek waivers. We would recommend that the granting of a waiver be minimized. And the reason for that is the analysis does depend upon that groundwater, the groundwater being recharged. And for each waiver, will further degrade the amount of water that reaches each of the homes. Let's see, the other item would be, knowing that septic systems do have a public health issue, we would again recommend that the town consider enacting either an educational program or an on-site wastewater management ordinance. And again, the reason is the state pretty much puts the maintenance and monitoring of septic systems on the private homeowner. And not all private homeowners are really well aware of the issues that need to be addressed and monitored. Okay, traffic impacts. I'm keeping an eye on the clock and I think I'm running slow, so I'll try to catch.
Couple more minutes.
Yeah, I'll try to go a little quicker. Working with the town planning department and planning board, we identified 15 intersections throughout the town. Most of them were the signalized intersections. And then we also had 2 unsignalized intersections out on the eastern side of town. We performed the morning PM peak counts and the PM peak count during June of 2019. So the data that we had was not impacted by, say, the shutdown of schools. The counts occurred during the school year, but in the summer, towards the summer months, and it certainly was not impacted by the current COVID issues. What we did is we took a look at all of the additional growth, residential and commercial growth, and we segmented it into 7 different quadrants of town. And then our traffic engineers had to analyze, well, we know the amount of traffic that's going to be generated, but where does it go? So the first thing they did is for each of the sections, they identified the total additional trips. Now, townwide, what we found is that during the morning peak hour, we could anticipate 3,400 additional vehicular trips. The PM peak hour, we anticipate approximately 7,600 vehicular trips. And then when we were deciding, how do we determine where those vehicles are going? Well, we use census data, and there is census data that exists that identifies where the people that live in Middletown work. For example, in Middletown, we have approximately 8,000 residents that work. And the census data actually tells us which community those residents commute to. So as you can see, there's about 3,200 that commute to Newport. And if we go down the list, there'd be 52 going to Pawtucket and so on. And in reverse, census data also shows where do Middletown workers live, meaning for somebody that works in Middletown, where are they commuting from? And as you can see, we have a significant list. And for each community, we have a certain number of people. So based upon this breakdown, meaning the percentage of directions and the actual volume, we were able to determine anticipated trips on the roadways through all of those intersections. So what I can do, I have a couple of screens that will make it easier for you to see the traffic impacts. Okay, what we have here is a brief summary of the actual hardcore data of the trip generation. This table here represents the existing and the proposed level of service under the full bill conditions. The yellow shaded areas represents intersections where the traffic level of service is degraded. This screen shows the AM, meaning the morning peak hour. And you can see we have we have approximately 4 intersections where there'll be significant degradation. But when we go to the PM peak, you can see that the added volume of traffic during the PM peak is significantly impacted. And I'll just quickly scroll. The AM, we have relatively small impacts, but in the PM, we have essentially every intersection, every signalized intersection, and even a couple of the unsignalized are severely impacted. So if we go back to the recommendations, basically what our traffic engineers did is they looked at each intersection to see if there is an easy fix. And unfortunately, most of the roadways, especially along East Main, West Main, are relatively narrow. So the opportunities for an easy fix is really minimal. We do anticipate that in order to make sure that we don't get all of these intersections into the lowest level of service F, that significant upgrades such as widening to allow additional turn lanes or the potential of roundabouts really should be pursued. So knowing that this is a full build assessment, now is certainly the time to begin planning ahead. Certainly, it's not an imminent threat, but we're just planning ahead. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ron, if I may.
If you could just leave your screen on, whoops.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry. I jumped the gun.
Yeah, because I figured it'd be easier. If you can just flip to the next step slide. I'm going to skip the summary slides since we're running out of time. So keep going. So that's really it for the presentation. We'd be happy to answer any questions. Just to summarize again, the next steps that I mentioned earlier on tonight, obviously, is a presentation to the town council. And the planning board's requested the town council's approval to proceed with establishing a subcommittee to work with Steve and his crew to review all of the recommendations that came out of the report, and then to identify specific policies and actions that can be brought forward to the town council. We would report back to the town council. The planning board would send a report back with specific recommendations and seek the council's authorization to proceed with some of those. In the memo from Mr. Croce, it was estimated we could do this work within about 90 days, go through this effort, and that would mean coming back to the town council sometime around mid-March with these the list of recommendations and more specifics as to how each of those might be implemented. So that's, I think, where I'll end right now, is just again reminding the council. I don't have a resolution on the docket, but if you wouldn't mind considering that request of the planning board, I appreciate it. And if there's any questions, Steve and I can obviously answer those now.
Unmute, Paul.
I didn't hear Bob say anything.
Could you take that slide off so I could see the rest of the council?
Steve, just stop. Yep, there you go.
Steve, thank you very much. Ron, thank you very much. Great study. A lot of suggestions, a lot of impact. Personally, I have no qualms with the planning board going to champion this and take lead on this, Ron. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yep, that's the idea. We just like the council's authorization to go ahead with the work.
Yeah, personally, I would support it. Any councilors have any questions, Vice President?
Yeah, so just a couple of points, 4 points that I took away from it. When I was reading it the other night, one of the things that struck me is certainly wouldn't be in favor of is taking lots that are R40 and R60 and making them R100. I think it's wrong that we would penalize people that have held on to their properties. You know, maybe as a nest egg or something like that, because everyone else sold out, or a lot of people sold their property at the time for whatever reason. I just think it's wrong that you're going to penalize people because now we're looking at development impacts at this stage in the game. I get why you'd want to make that recommendation. I just don't agree with it. I think it's wrong.
And it wasn't so much, Paul, if I might, it wasn't so much a recommendation as an option, I guess I'd say. It's something to look at and consider, and we're certainly, going to take all the input in the planning board. I'm assuming we'll be having some public sessions on this. And
okay.
So
I just thought it was one of the recommendations at the end of that slide that came up in that part of the presentation. So, but I know what you're saying. The second thing is the stormwater drain upgrades. We had talked about this in the past. I think Sean had brought it up. Maybe upgrading some, and then Steve talked about it tonight, upgrading some of the existing stormwater drains that would actually be deeper and maybe act as some type of sump. Sean, I think you've brought that up in the past, that would improve or enhance the water quality and trap some of those pollutants before they get into the stream. The third thing was the water quality systems. We've put a lot of money into some water quality upgrades. This isn't anything new. This has been on the town's radar, and we've actually done a bunch of projects. And I'm disappointed to hear that, nobody's testing it coming in and coming out. Because if we're going to spend money on doing that, then we should have some type of metric so that we can make decisions moving forward, whether these things are working or not, and if it's money well spent. And certainly the last thing that really caught my eye, because I've always talked about this, I know some of my fellow colleagues don't agree with me on this, but the West Main Road development traffic, we're at max capacity over there now. So if there's anything planned or going forward with that, traffic needs to be the first issue that's addressed, in my opinion. That's it. Thank you.
Yep.
Many other council comments? Council Troy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would have to agree with Paul on that. We've invested a lot of money into the stormwater runoffs. We've invested a lot of money in slip lining our sewer lines. We've addressed trying to look at the wells in Middletown and try to put an ordinance in place, and it didn't get, much traction. So I think we put some things in place. I think this is a great report. I mean, I always love this type of detail. I would encourage us to maybe have an open forum for residents who might want to come in and learn more about it, because we do have people who have good ideas and they want to share those with us. So I would encourage it. It's a lot of detail. I received it on Thursday. And again, it's about this thick. So there's a lot to read. This is only half the docket I got here. So I'm going to spend some time digging through it. I was glad to hear that you took the comprehensive plan into consideration, because that's really important. I mean, I think this has a lot to say with what we do in our town of Middletown, and our comprehensive plan that needs to reflect this. It's kind of interesting to see that there was no more room for multi-family dwellings or multi-unit dwellings or anything for trailers and things along those lines. So this program shows that Middletown has no room for expansion of multi-families. Is that what I saw in here?
The only place, yeah, all of the multifamily zoning districts are built out. The only place where you could do any multifamily at this point would be under our mixed use ordinance, which would be multifamily in conjunction with some commercial development. So I think that's something that this will give us an opportunity to look at existing zoning and whether it's appropriate to look at perhaps allowing for multifamily in appropriate areas of town.
Right, because we've all talked about affordable living, and a lot of people buy multifamilies, live in one, and maybe rent the other side out to help them, pay to live in that area. So I know that a lot of the multifamilies are turned into condos. And so I just think that was interesting. I saw on your slide that there was no future expansion in the multifamily area. So it's just something I saw on the screen. The other thing too, did you guys take into consideration the size of homes in Middletown? I mean, there's a number of people who are coming in and redefining a home from a 2-bedroom to a 5-bedroom and multiple baths. And did you take that into consideration, and also the consideration of how many part-time people live here so they're not fully impacting our waters? Is there any of that taken into consideration?
Yeah, what we did when we looked at the water demand, we assumed that the house size would vary from 2.5 to 5 people per household. So we did look at a range. We didn't pick one number and run with it.
Okay. Yeah, because we have a lot of building going on. We have homes that are, being changed dramatically. And the number of full-time residents is changing. So yeah. I just want to make sure we're taking that into consideration. What also I found interesting was 75% of the workers in Middletown don't live in Middletown. 75%.
Yeah.
That's pretty big. So just interesting stats. I really enjoyed it. So thank you very much for the hard work. I look forward to, as they say, peel the onion back a few layers and get it out in front of the people of Middletown, the residents, and combine this. I think it's great stuff. We have to take care of our waters. One thing I did in the town, Steve, just to let you know, is I kind of was champion all the pollutants that go out the window as people are driving down the road, and all the nip bottles and the beer cans and the pizza boxes. And did you guys put any of that into did you see any of that as a concern within Middletown?
It's certainly a concern, but we didn't specifically address it. We certainly could address it as we worked with the planning department and come up with more recommendations. So I will admit, no, we didn't specifically address solid waste.
Yeah, litter is a problem here. We've got a good program in place that we're doing litter control. We're looking at, we got dumpsters. You get a lot of development and you have dumpsters and trash flies out of it. And a lot of it is in our water areas as we're developing. Our commercial real estate dumpsters in the back overflowing. We've got to kind of get in there just to keep the surface trash out of the waters. And so we've done a lot there. And so I appreciate if maybe you had a little insight into that. And I agree. I think we should be testing our waters as much as possible. As Paul said, we've put 12 to 13, 14 different retaining ponds in Middletown to curb this type of pollutants that we're getting in our drinking water. And I don't know if we're seeing any stats of it getting any better by what we put in there. I haven't seen it. So I think we should test more often. So thank you.
Vice President.
Hey, just as a side note, Sean, I think that, when I think about water quality, I mean, that battle's never going to end. So we need to constantly, try to improve our water quality. One of the things that kind of rubs me the wrong way, though, a little bit is the fact that 77% of that drinking water for Newport comes through Middletown. And, a lot of that's diverted to Gardner Pond or the other pond over there. And, we have sewer issues because we send our sewer to Newport to be treated. We're charged for that. And I think I don't think the sole fiduciary responsibilities should lie in the town of Middletown when it comes to water if Newport's benefiting for that. And one might argue that, yes, our residents get water from Newport, and that's true. However, they pay for that water. So we should do our part, but I think we should work collaboratively with Newport. And I think there should be some financial sharing going on here when it comes to that. I think we can't tackle this problem alone.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further comments? Council Welch.
Just a couple of things to say as far as water quality goes and trying to figure out whether we've made any progress. You might reach out to Clean Ocean Access. I participate in volunteering to collect water samples on the Mayford. I know it was going on in Bailey's Brook for at least a few years. And that was a weekly thing. So they could at least show you something over that period of time. Question I would have is, and maybe everybody knows this, but I'm curious as to, I read through all of the data, which I too was intrigued with and was happy to hear about. At least we're thinking about it. I wonder what that analysis cost. And if we go forward and have them bring forth recommendations based on their findings, is there any dollar value to that? Or is that something they've already been hired to do? I don't know the answer. And lastly, I like the idea of Steve Cabral saying that we should reach out to homeowners to have them test their own wells and or septic, because if we, they can only guess where the fissures are and how well they receive recharge in the bedrock. But if we had hard numbers as to what people's wells were putting out for volume and what the water quality was like, that could very easily impact zoning when you've got a cluster of homes going in that are going to also use well water and septic, and that you could use that as criteria to not allow them to skirt a zoning rule, and or I think it should enter into the equation. So that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we're all pretty much in agreement. I'm going to make a motion that we authorize the planning board to champion this forward. I know the planning board, under the chairmanship of Paul Croce and Ron and the members of that planning board do a great job. Steve, thank you for tonight.
Great
You did
job.
Oh,
a Great
so
job.
thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you as well. So I want to make a motion that we allow the planning board to champion this, move it forward, and get back to us in 90 days, plus or minus, which they've already committed to, if I heard you right, Ron, correct?
That's right. Yep.
Okay, so get back to us in 90 days. And if you can get back to us and maybe something, maybe if there's any estimated costs associated with this, get a hold of us, let us know. And that'll be my motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Any further conversation? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Again, thank you, Ron, and thank you, Steve.
Thank
Okay,
you.
yep, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys. Okay, motion to approve the consent calendar minus items number 12, 15, 18, 20, 21, and 28.
I'll second it. Do we have 22 in there also? No, we did not have 22. Okay, all right. So,
All in favor?
Vice President,
All in favor?
no, I was just checking to see if we got all the numbers correct.
Okay, I didn't know. I thought you were going right to it.
So we have a motion, it's been seconded. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand.
Aye. Sorry, Bob.
Councilor Toronto, you voting?
I'm sorry. Aye.
Thank you. Okay, all right.
Okay, item number 12. Communication of Carrie W. Miranda, Executive Director, Looking Upwards in reference to 2020 Middletown Civic Appropriation Status and Year-End Report.
Gonna make a motion, Mr. Vice President?
Oh, sorry, Bob. I'm a little off kilter, I guess. Motion to receive said communication.
I'll second it. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Aye,
Aye.
okay. Councilor Toronto, item number 12.
Yes, I pulled this off because as I was reading through it, it sounds like such a great program, and I just want to do a shout out to this organization. It seems like they've really, I like the detail they provided to us. They've got a lot of good things going on. This is the type of program I'm really pulling for our children and our students during this epidemic, that they really are needing our outreach. A short-term view of this. And these organizations are creating programs to assist these children in weathering the storm, and at the same time helping them, grow as young adults. So I just want to do a shout out to them, and I'm hoping that we can keep an eye on them, as a council or a town administrator, or someone can reach out to them maybe on a periodic basis just to see how they're doing and if there's anything we can do to help them out. So that's the only reason I wanted to pull that off.
Okay, thank you. Item number 15, communication of Joseph Pratt, Executive Director and CEO, Boys and Girls Clubs of Newport County. Reference, appreciation for support.
Motion to receive said communication.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. President. Again, kind of the same message for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Newport County. Very nice letter. I know what they do for the community. They help support the island as a whole. And this is another program that I think our children are taking full advantage of, or trying to take full advantage of, and anything we can do to support this organization. I think, again, we should maybe try to reach out to these folks on a regular basis, just make sure everything's going okay, or if they reach out to us, I think we should help. So just another organization I think we need to support in these times and going forward in other times, but more today than maybe, without this epidemic around us.
Yeah, we always have.
Yep.
Item number 18, resolution of the City of Cranston urging Rhode Island Governor Gina Raimondo to release $150 million from the CARES Act to our small business community.
Motion to receive said resolution.
Second.
The motion is second to receive. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Councilor Toronto.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a big issue in the state. I'm sure we've all heard about it. Small business, the Lieutenant Governor has been really pushing hard on this to get this money released to the small businesses. I think I've seen over the last few weeks that some money is being released for different reasons. I know the town's received some for outdoor dining. There's some that have been, given out for people who are trying, we have the PPP. There's been a lot of funding going on, but small businesses are really taking a hit. And I'd like to put out a motion to, further identify businesses in Middletown that are suffering. And maybe we can do something to help them with their taxes, to defer their taxes during this tough times. Do we defer them or give them some type of relief or credit? Because without these businesses, it wouldn't be a lot of hurt. And just this weekend, I was in Newport, and the Newport Creamery was shut down, and Middletown Pet Value is going to be open. It's closing down. I mean, it's coming our way, and it's happening right in front of us that these businesses are closing down. Our commercial real estate's going to be taking a hit. And even when we look at these plans and these comprehensive plans, I don't think commercial real estate is going to be what it was before this. And so I just think it's important that we focus in on that and also give our small businesses in Middletown a break. And I would ask for some type of tax deferment for them.
Thank you, Councilor Toronto. My suggestion would be to put a docket item together and submit it as a docket item at a later council meeting.
I'll
That
do
way
it.
you can articulate what you want at that time.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Item number 20, memorandum from Attorney Patrick Hayes Jr. on behalf of Lilies Capital Development, LLC, reference zoning change petition for 438 East Main Road for development of housing units, including low-income housing. This requires advertising for public hearing and notification to abutters. Planning board recommendation received.
Motion to receive said memorandum, advertise for public hearing and notify abutters.
Second,
Okay, the motion has been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
By raising your hand, aye.
Aye.
Councilor Toronto.
What intrigued me on this was the including of low-income housing. This is something that we've all talked about. And so this kind of piqued my interest that these folks are looking to rezone and actually start offering, it sounds like, some low-income housing. So I just wanted to pay attention to this. And, again, this is something I'm interested in, affordable housing and low-income housing. So I just wanted to take it off. And is this something they've consulted I take it this is all before planning, and they've looked at our comprehensive plan, kind of all the things we're looking at, the water, shed, things along those lines that come in front of us. And, is this tying into our low-income housing, where we have a quota that we need to hit, or, our direction of what we want to do as a council?
Okay. Thank you. Vice President.
So I want to pull this off as well. I had some questions about it. I've seen this in the past. Right over here at Forest Avenue, where it was supposed to start off as low income or lower income or affordable senior housing. $350,000, $400,000, $500,000 isn't affordable to me. So as far as definition goes, and I'm not saying that's the case here. That's kind of what went on over there at Forest Avenue. Having said that, it seemed like it was the same folks involved. Having said that, why would we want to rezone? And maybe the planning board could answer this. We went through rezoning areas to office business. Now a developer comes in and they want to rezone it to limited business, I guess, or whatever it is. So why would we want to, the traffic sensitive OBA to limited business? Why would we want to do that?
Mr. Chair, Mr. President. My only suggestion is the only thing that's on the docket tonight is actually the receipt of the petition and the advertising. So I wouldn't want the council to get into any substantive discussion. It'll be up to the applicant when they come before the council to make that pitch and to make that argument to the council as to why it's appropriate
Okay.
to rezone. But I just don't want to get into the meeting and the discussion in advance of the public hearing.
Okay,
Thank you.
fair enough.
Okay. Item number 21, email communication of Karen Day, Chair, Citizens Memorial Committee, approval of memorial proposal application of Corin Munsterman Lee.
Motion to receive email communication and approve the said memorial application for Corin Munsterman Lee.
Second.
And motion is second. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Vice President?
Bob, I just wanted to bring this up. I mean, it's maybe a little sensitive and I apologize, but I just didn't know if the town, I think it's a great idea. I'm okay with a tree. I don't know if we want to set that precedent of a plaque, because we open that door and then obviously a great cause, a great person. But if we open that door, is it going to happen all the time now with other people? That's the only concern I had.
Okay, any discussion? Mr. Brown?
Just, this is one of the areas that I have been talking to the tree commission about, and Karen is on the memorial committee also, but we have had issues where people have dedicated trees and then they want to know which tree it is. We have people that put all sorts of different plaques out on the site. So one of the committee actions has been to identify a standard plaque that would go with any trees that are planted, moving forward. There would be a standard for them. We can certainly change it around if we think we'd want a different kind of plaque, but for people donating the trees, it is an important feature. And my concern is a lot of people will get a piece of plywood, something that's not durable. And then you get a different one that's not durable and a different one that's not durable. And when they rot or they go missing, the people get upset. So Karen and the committee have been working hard to identify something that will, fulfill the requirement of providing an identifier.
Okay. Any other?
Okay. Thank you, Sean.
Item number 28, adoption of the rules of the council. Per council president's request, this is for council to review. Item will be acted on January 19th, 2021.
Motion to continue said item to January 19, 2021.
Second.
We have a motion second. Please signify by raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Council Toronto.
Yes, Bob, I read through this and I understand that we're gonna, talk about it and act upon it. Our target here is January 19th. So I just was hoping maybe you can share a little bit with us the reason you put this on there, and I see some of the changes you want to add. So I just didn't know if you wanted to comment on it.
There are no changes. Okay, there are no changes. But there are, I think this is something that should be open up for conversation in case any council wants to submit any changes.
Okay, I thought I read through it and I apologize. I thought there was a couple changes in there. So I'm glad I got a refresher then.
You got to reflect.
Isn't this something that we do every time there's a change with the
Yes.
council?
Yes.
Yes, when there's a new council, that's put on in the next docket, yes.
Well, I think it's really good. I mean, I'm reading through it, and again, I appreciate the refresher on it. I think there's some things we can do on here that will help us speed up the docket and maybe move things around a little bit. So I thought that,
That would be nice.
good stuff. Thanks.
All right. Town business updates. Number 29, memorandum of the town administrator, RE, town business updates through November 30th, 2020.
Motion to receive said memorandum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive. All in favor, please signify with your hand. Aye.
Aye.
I think this is great. I think it's nice that we put questions to our administrator. I think it's great now that we have a public affairs man that's posting these online. I think they belong to be posted online. I don't really see myself the necessity to have Mr. Brown go into a lot of detail in an open session and articulate on things that we already have the information on. The information is forwarded to us. It's going to be posted online. It's really accessible. And if there are constituents that councilors want to get this message to personally, then they should do that personally. I think that I've witnessed, and just my feeling, that this can get down to some, a lot of repetition and using time that necessarily could be better spent someplace else.
I agree.
Okay. All right. License. Yes, Councilor Toronto.
Thank you. No, I want to thank Sean too, for the project, for this update. This is something that we've been defining over the last 3 years or so, trying to get a handle on this. It does go into more of a department update, which I think is great. I mean, love the detail again. But there are specific projects that are kind of in here that maybe could be brought out a little bit, and I'll work on this a little bit. But in regards to, just for my example, I see in here, there's the senior affordable housing and what's going on with that and other projects, big projects. And so I can use this as an update. I just think that there's a lot of good stuff in here, but maybe at some point we pull out the big projects and kind of decide what we're going to be working at from the sizable projects like Coddington, or, you know, the surveys we're doing for that, or for the senior housing or tax reform, things like that.
Okay, thank you. Vice President, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think when I read this, I said, man, we can't spend all this time into this detail here. It's a great report. It's great for us. It'll be online for our residents if they want to view it to see what's going on. You know, Dennis, when you put the updates on, my thinking or perception of it was exactly what you just said. Hey, look, here's where we are with the red roads. The red roads are complete. Now we're moving on. Matter of fact, second Turner Road, this one just got paved, that one paved, that's done. Senior housing, this is what phase we're in right now. Coddington or West Main Road development, this is what we're doing. And I envision it taking 5 minutes, really not 15, but you know, some may be a little longer, a little shorter, but that's what it should be. This is really good detail, but this is not what the intent was.
Okay,
Great.
all right. Licenses, number 30. Application of Plant City 10 LLC, DBA Plant City 10, 619 West Main Road for a victualling house license for the 2020-21 licensing year. This is new.
Motion to grant said license subject to building official, fire marshal, and board of health approvals.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any conversation? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your hand, signify.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. 31, application for special event for Derek Savas and On Your Left Racing for the Newport Triathlon Swim, Bike, and Run event to be held on Sunday, September 12, 2021, 7 a.m. to 12 p.m., beginning at Second Beach.
Motion to continue this request till April 5th, 2021.
Have a motion and a second. Any conversation? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Other communications. Number 32, memorandum of Robert M. Silver, Chairman, Middletown Economic Development Advisory Committee, RE, proposed amendment, short-term rentals, Chapter 98.
Motion to continue this item into the January 19, 2021 regular meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue. Any conversation? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, item number 33, email communication of Nicholas Coogan, Chair, Open Space and Fields Committee, requesting the Town Council to declare the week of April 17th, 2021 as Earth Week.
Motion to receive said email communication.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, yes, absolutely. We do this annually, and thank you, Chair Coogan, for bringing this in. 34, resolution of the council declaring April 17, 2021 to April 24, 2021, Aquidneck Island Earth Week.
Motion to pass said resolution.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pass. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Item number 35, email communication of Nicholas Coogan, Open Space and Fields Committee, draft Open Space and Fields Committee worksheet.
Motion to receive said email communication.
Second.
We have a motion and second to receive. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Motion to forward the draft open space and fields worksheet to the town solicitor and town administration for review.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Councilor Toronto.
Yes, as I read through this from the open space fields, I mean, we're talking watershed and a lot of the open space and so on kind of tied into our presentation this morning. So, or excuse me, earlier in the meeting. So is this something that should be combined with that? Or, I mean, or is this kind of an independent project on their own?
I think it's an independent project on their own, but I'm confident that Mr. Brown and the solicitor will make good use of their time and overlap anything that can be overlapped with the planning board's project.
Yeah.
Is that a fair statement, Mr. Solicitor? I mean, Mr. Brown?
Yes, and I would just point out, this is really replacing an existing scoring sheet. So we'll look at the differences and see how they may improve the process.
Great, thank you.
Fantastic. All right, number 36, communication of Tom Nasser, Greg Hewitt, and Brian Gear, trustees of the Knights of Columbus, request for one-time civic appropriation.
Motion to receive said communication.
Second.
We have a motion and second to receive. All in favor?
Aye.
I think the vice president's going to be making a motion. I think I am wholeheartedly in support of this. The Knights of Columbus has always been there for everyone, and anyone in need. And this is a small payback to them from the town. I can't ever remember them not opening their doors to anyone that needed a fundraiser, that needed to help us or support a family in need. And I wholeheartedly support this. Mr. Vice President.
Motion to appropriate a one-time civic appropriation in the amount of $800 to be allocated from the council president's discretionary fund.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any conversation? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Ordinances. An ordinance of the town of Middletown. This is the second reading. An ordinance and amendment to the town code titled 7, Traffic Code, three-way stop intersection, Mitchell's Lane, Third Beach Road, and Wappin Road. See attached ordinance.
Motion to adopt said ordinance on its second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt. Any conversation? Vice President.
So, having grown up in that area and travel that road quite often, especially during farming season, I mean, I read a lot of the comments, or most of the comments, maybe all the comments that we had in our docket on this one, and a lot of them were, the majority of them were they wanted some type of stop sign there, but probably at least half of them said, and that's just a guess, said, you know, it only makes sense if we put a stop sign on Third Beach Road side. So I don't know if that would solve the issue or not, or but my second thought was, on some of the other comments also said, you know, that's fine, but sometimes when you come to an intersection like that, drivers tend to get confused on who's stopping and who's not stopping when there's one sign. So, I mean, I can go either way with it. I could go Third Beach, one sign. There was a lot of residents that said that would make sense and that should solve the issue. I don't know. Or I could go either way. I don't know what the pleasure of the council is, but I just kind of want to put that out there after reading every one of those comments. And that's what the majority of them either said. I mean, there was probably, you know, 25 of people that said no, 25, 30 that said there's nothing needed there. You know, don't forget now, stop signs typically don't slow people down. you know, they actually make them speed up is what engineers have told us over the years. But, you know, I travel a lot. It can get, when the traffic's busy, it can get confusing at times. So I do think something's needed there. Just, I could go either way, full freeway stop or just a stop sign to start on Third Beach Road.
Okay. Any further comments? I got a lot of calls on this. In fact, I got 2 emails from people that reside in Portsmouth. They don't reside in Portsmouth, but they drive through. They do. They drive through that intersection every day. I have no problem with adopting this on the second reading. I think there's such a mix of the pros and cons to this. I think it's obviously an intersection of caution and concern, and I guess I could go either way myself. So. Any further conversation? Councilor Toronto.
Does Sean have, I mean, he's been kind of involved in this. Does Sean have an opinion on that?
I agree with the recommendation of the engineers. You know, this is a process that started out with their review and recommendations. We've had neighborhood meetings. We're all familiar. We've had a resident out there actually petition the council for a 3-way stop sign. I think, like everybody, we've grown up and we're used to it sort of in its current configuration. But if you think about it, it's not your typical 3-way stop. It's not a T intersection. It's sort of a crazy Y, a lowercase y. There's a curl to it. It doesn't, you know, Third Beach Road doesn't really sort of terminate. It terminates on a corner. So in my mind, that's what warrants the 3-way stop. We do have the playground there. We have you know, some, we'll call it, you know, agricultural / commercial traffic. We have, you know, that has music festivals in the summer. It is a busy area. And I think having the additional controls does help with traffic control. And that is consistent with the uniform manual of traffic control devices for a T intersection. So the recommendation from the engineers and what's on the docket is what I would suggest the council adopts.
Thank you.
Any further conversation? Vice President?
So Sean, I would ask that, I have no issue with that either way, but I would also ask that we kind of, if we could kind of take a holistic view over there, because not just that whole area. Years ago, when I was on the council, I think it was 2098, it was actually, to 2000, they put a stop sign on Riverview Avenue. Riverview, if anybody's familiar with Riverview, you go up and then you got Secaunet, you come off Green End, and Secaunet's like a horseshoe. So they put a stop sign on Riverview, and it's the first intersection of Secaunet, which I'm fine with. I have no issue with that. But they put no stop signs on Secaunet on either end coming out. So the next intersection on Riverview and Secaunet, there's no stop here and there's no stop here. I mean, there's probably no issues because there's very limited traffic there. But that was in one of the comments from a few people that was brought up. So just maybe take a look at it down the road or whenever.
I think one of the more challenging things is the stop signs at the 3-way intersections, but we can definitely look at that for consistency. I know from riding my bike down there, it's awkward. So I'll make sure that's on our list.
Yep, not a big deal, but I just figured why not all in the area.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion that's been seconded to adopt the said ordinance on the second reading. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Item number 38, an ordinance of the town of Middletown. This is the second reading. An ordinance and amendment to the town code, Title 7, Traffic Code, Chapter 72, Parking Regulations, prohibiting through commercial traffic vehicles on Turner Road. See attached ordinance.
Motion to adopt said ordinance on the second reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second to adopt. Conversation. Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Town council matters. Item number 39, memorandum from myself and Vice President Rodrick in regards to short-term rental ordinance and property tax adjustments.
Motion to continue this item to the January 19th, 2021 regular meeting of the council.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 40, email communication of Vice President Rodrick and Council President Sylvia, discussion of upcoming BT.
Okay, motion to receive said email communication.
second,
We have a motion and a second to receive. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Aye?
Aye.
Vice President?
Okay, so I thought that it would be, I wanted to get right back at the beach season, Bob and I, we were talking about it. And I think, we were all, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think we're all pleasantly surprised on how, the beach season started and how it ended. Maybe not so surprised how it, or pleasant how it started, but as far as the operation piece of it went, we really, this is the first time in my involvement in the town that I've seen the council take care of its residents. And it took a pandemic to do that as far as it goes down the beach. It was Third Beach resident only when it started. And then I think the end of May sometime, or sometime early in June, we opened up Second Beach, and we had second designated resident parking and designated resident accessibility lanes. And I would like to see that continue because I think I've heard nothing but positive feedback from residents on those accessibility lanes, residents not waiting in line, having accessibility to their beach. So that's one of the aspects that the first thing that I wanted to talk about. The next thing was just the overall beach operations as far as, and this will be obviously a discussion and like folks to give it some thought. I think one of the things was the cashless beach. I brought this up last year, and the idea would be that there's no cash transactions down the beach. So what would happen is that the beach would, I visioned this year, and Dennis, you and I talked about this one time in the past, where we have the technology where we can, you buy stickers online, you can buy them down put them on down at the Triangle B, or buy them down there. And if you want, day passes are going to be up in the air depending upon, how this pandemic continues on or not. If there are day passes, maybe they're purchased online that day, or maybe you can buy them down at the beach where you come in and your card is scanned through a handheld scanner. Or if you buy it online and you bring your phone in, that same scanner can scan your phone like it would if you go into a store for a rewards card or a coupon redemption type thing. So those are just some thoughts that ran through my mind. John had called me today and he put this slide together for me, or for us. As you can see, reserve 1/2 of the main lot for Middletown residents. We just talked about the cashless beach. Third Beach remains as resident beach. The mobile food trucks, I think when the concessionaire backed out, I think it opened up the door for us to explore the mobile food truck possibilities and a much healthier menu. The carry in and carry out trash remains in effect, although I would like to see us on busy days have our staff stay a little bit later, maybe a second shift to pick up the trash after most of the beachgoers are gone, to be ready for the next day's business. Certainly to identify and construct a location for drop-offs, because that became a big issue this past year from a safety perspective. Luckily, nobody got hurt. The campground would remain available to seasonal rentals only. At this point, not the transient campers. Continue to refine the organizational structure. I think in one of the reports, the beach ending report, I think beach manager Mike McGordy, who I thought did a great job. One of the things he recommended, believe it or not, was too much staff. So that's something we can look at from an expense standpoint, and put a few more bucks in the bottom line, although it's not always about the dollar, it's about the experience. Expand water testing and monitoring program to make sure our beaches are safe for swimmers and bacteria free. Plan for family days and fireworks display. That would be obviously very fluid depending upon the pandemic and how it continues on or not. Expand this peak season operating hours to maybe 6 o'clock. I think that might be stretching it. I would certainly be in favor of 5 because our residents that maybe can't afford it, that have families, maybe they could get down there at 5 or so, but that's certainly open for discussion. And one of the things that Sean and I had a discussion today about was, and I brought this up in the past when, you know, some of the folks come before us to get a special use permit to, you know, have yoga on the beach or, you know, exercising on the beach. I think it's gotten a little out of hand, and Sean's actually gotten a lot of complaints about, you know, people taking up parking spots that don't leave. You know, don't forget on weekends and stuff, we have people showing up there at 7 o'clock in line, waiting to get in. So just some key points, some thoughts for the council, for my colleagues to ponder. But I think we need to, you know, don't blink because Christmas is over and next thing you know, it's we're getting ready, that beach ready to go. So I think we need to have a plan. We need to have a solid plan and we need to move forward. And I think we need to cater to our residents as far as accessibility to the beach and making that beach experience. That's their beach. So I think that the beach is. I think we need to, obviously there's laws in place that, you know, for non-residents as well, but you know, they don't pay the taxes here, the residents do. So I think that's why Bob and I wanted to jump on this early and, you know, get some of your thoughts and ideas and let's move forward with it, okay? Thank you, Sean.
I'd like to make a couple additional comments, and I'm going to ask my colleagues, you have a snapshot of this, you have it in your docket, or you have it right now, some thoughts that we put together. But if you have any additional thoughts that you want to blast out, send them out to Sean, copy us in. And I'm going to ask the town administrator maybe to come back to us, maybe at our January 4th meeting, if possible, and let us know what kind of plan he's implementing and putting in place, because I agree. We're going to blink and people are going to be putting sunscreen on. I mean, it's, you know, it's going to be here quicker than we think. You know, and personally, I'm looking forward to it. But I think we need to move on this, get a plan together. Mr. Brown has spoke to me at length about it. He spoke to the vice president at length about it. I think he has a pretty good perspective on what he sees that has worked down there and what our likes and dislikes are. And I think maybe January 4th, is that too soon, Sean, to ask you to just, nothing elaborate detail. Let us know where you're headed, maybe conversations you've had with your team and how we're progressing with this.
That would be great. You are in the conference room tonight. The wall is full of sticky notes, and I think we've mapped out a plan for opening the beach, so I can move that into a memo for the council to approve.
That'd be great. And I'll tell you, the comments and the feedback that we had from our residents this last summer were fantastic. We went into the summer thinking they were going to be negative because of the action we had to take with COVID-19 in respecting the COVID-19 guidelines. But, you know, it turned out, in my opinion, a win-win-win for our residents and something that we need to continue. Okay.
President?
Mr. President?
Councilor Toronto.
Just a couple of things. I would recommend that we get this to the beach committee as well. I know they would be very interested in giving us some feedback. I think it's important to get their feedback. They've got a lot of knowledge and enthusiasm behind this. So I would encourage us to involve them. I think it's important that we involve them. When I read through this, I didn't see anything on this, but our harbor master was probably one section I was a little reading through that was one of the biggest problems he said he was having was actually getting the boat to the beach in regards to the car. You know, I don't know if you read through that section, but it broke down a few times. It broke down on the dock a few times. And I mean, it's very important to get that boat in the water. It's very important that it's a reliable truck to get the boat to the beach. So I just encourage us to maybe keep an eye on that. Maybe there's another truck that he can get this year that would be a little bit more dependable. I don't know what we can do with that. And then another thing that was interesting is the moorings and the people who aren't using the moorings or people who they don't have snapshots of the boats that they're supposed to be putting there. And it seems like there's a little bit of maybe organization around the moorings that we can maybe take a look at as well. That was just something else they said in here. So that was just one area. The harbor master, he also had mentioned at one point they had 2 people there, made it a little bit easier as the season was busy. So I don't know if there's someone who might be able to be temporarily on the weekends or busy times of the season that we get someone else that maybe will give the harbor master a hand. Because as they said, if they go out for a rescue for a boat or they got to go out for someone's windsurfers that's offshore, sometimes it's hard to drive the boat and actually, you know, assist the person that's in stress. So I just wanted to bring those points out. Those are a couple, you know, comments that the harbor master had made.
I'm not sure what the protocol today is, but I do recall years ago that if there was any kind of a necessity to have somebody jump in the boat, they generally utilize the police detail men down there to get in the boat. In fact, I believe that some of them are even specially trained for
Oh,
that.
that's great. Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay. Vice President.
So Sean, just from a timeline perspective, what are your thoughts on, I guess maybe next meeting, Bob, or January meeting? Because if we wait till February, we're already getting into the hiring season and
Well,
stuff like.
I thought I mentioned it, January 4th meeting. He'll be.
Okay.
Brought up
Okay.
with
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
All right.
Okay.
January 4th. So I think it gives the town administrator ample amount of time, and we can jump on top of this early.
Awesome.
Great. Okay. Item number 41, memorandum of Council Von Villas, reference high school unification.
Motion to receive said memorandum.
Second.
Yep. Motion and a second to receive said memorandum. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Council Von Villas.
Yes, I have a set of slides up there. If we could see the, okay, yes, all right. I'm real excited about bringing this forward. It seems to me that this meeting has gone so favorably all the way through. People have passions and they care about things and they're moving things forward. And we all know this is my passion. So you're going to have to indulge me a little and let me just talk about it. I've been an educator for almost 50 years. I've taught students in grades 7 through 12. And now I'm an instructor of college students, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. I've been an administrator in 3 regional districts, the smallest in Connecticut with a high school of 300, and the largest regional district in Massachusetts, which at the time had 1,700 high school students from 5 towns. The high school now has over 2,000 students. I can say from experience that the larger the school, if it demands excellence, maximizes opportunity, and provides a superior education for its students. Could you put up slide 2, please? A single high school in a single location with double the enrollment would provide more opportunities for students. We can make it happen here if we're willing to deal with the issues, overcome the structural challenges, and demand excellence. So what are the issues? Did you put up number 3? These are the major issues. There are a lot of them, and you've all talked about them over time. Location, financial management, contracts, administration. Those are big deals. Those are big things that you have to discuss. And all of you have had criticisms of things that have taken place both in our town and in other towns. But we have to deal with the issues. And if we deal with them, we can be successful. Could I see number 4, please? What's the major roadblock? Rhode Island Title 16, which is, the title is education. And what's the biggest problem, the biggest roadblock for us, for Middletown? Equalized representation based on population. Because if it's based on population, you have a situation where you have a town with more people telling a town with fewer people what they should do. That's not good for us, and that's not going to go forward. So how do we overcome them? Could I see the next one? There is a pathway. First, establish a foundation principle, equal representation based on enrollment. That's it. No excuses, no other way. That's got to be the way. And then appoint a local committee, a committee that will join with a committee from another town. 2 school committee members, 2 town council members, and 1 school committee member. Small committees work. Big committees do not. You put together 15 people and you're going to talk and talk and talk and talk forever. You put together 6 people that have some sort of foundation in from each of their areas and have them talk about what's important, okay? And they'll come to a conclusion, some sort of conclusion, some sort of an agreement, because 15 people are never going to come to an agreement. And what do you do after you set the committee? You invite the mutual participation. So that means that we have to invite the other community, in this case, of course, Newport, to meet with us. And then number 6, what's the process? Discussion, come to agreement. Then after you come to agreement, you bring it back to the town councils and have them do the approvals. And at that point in time, that's when they say yes or no. But you can't say yes or no when you don't know what you're talking about. And up to now, we haven't known what we've been talking about. So what we need to do is we need to have the discussion. We need to come together as 2 communities. We need to develop some sort of an agreement and then bring it back to the municipal authorities and have them decide yay or no. That's where it should be. And then if in fact the agreement is good, then go to a special election and ask the voters. And don't drag it on forever. I've been at this since 2009. 2009. That's a long time. Okay, so the next one, the last one, what's the goal? The goal is improved educational opportunities for all our students, not just the college bound, but also those students that are going out into the work world. That's what we need to do, and we're not doing a good job of it now. We're not doing it. And so at least let us talk about it so that we can bring something to the councils that they can actually know what they're talking about. Okay, so that's basically what I have to say, and I hope that you'll consider it.
Okay. Conversation. No conversation.
Yes,
Oh, Paul, okay. Go ahead, Vice President.
thank you. Robert, you don't say a lot. You said a lot tonight for you. And I love the passion. You know what my concerns have been in the past. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with talking. My concern is that why wouldn't we get to try to change the legislation first and then talk? Because we could be talking for no reason.
No,
So if the
can I-
legislation can't get passed, potentially, I don't know if it would or wouldn't, but if it wasn't changed, then certainly I wouldn't support that.
Can I just give a comment on that?
Sure.
Prior to putting this together, I had conversations both with Lou De Palma and with Debbie Ruggiero, and both of them said that they would carry the water for us upstate. Now, that would be taking place in the summer. So we would not even be coming back to the council until after the legislation was in place.
So the first step is what?
Well, the first step is discussion. I mean, you discuss what you basically say is that you as the council, we as the council say, okay, Newport, we want to talk, we'll discuss, so long as we agree right up front that's where we have to go. We have to have that, or we're not going to approve it way down the line. No matter how the discussion goes, we're not going to approve it. So if this council says that's the absolute foundation thing, then it'll have to be there. And if it's not there, it'll never come back to us.
Okay. So if we talk, I'm just trying to play it out in my mind because I'm a visual person. So we talk to them and Newport says, yeah, okay, we'll talk to you because we're building a new high school and, you know, we could certainly, you know, Middletown help us, you know, help the students is not the priority, but we would help. How would that work, I guess? I mean, are we going to help pay for their school? How does that funding work? I mean, there's a lot of questions before.
But that's the point. There are so many questions. You ask those questions and you talk about them. And if you can come to an agreement, great. And if you can't come to an agreement, you walk away. But the point is that you try. You're not going to know the answer. I can't give you the answers right now up front, what's going to happen. I can't give you that. Okay. But at the same time, I tell you that you have to talk about it. You have to ask the questions. You have to see if it will work. Because if you don't try, then you're in a vacuum. You're in a vacuum. And you're making a decision without information. What you need is information.
Councilor Toronto.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Barbara, thank you for your passion on this. I understand, you know, I've got something that I've always, the tax reform, and I'm always trying to get a group together to talk about that. And we keep pushing. So I appreciate your enthusiasm behind this. And I know your motivation is to give the kids a better education. I think that's loud.
Absolutely.
That's loud and clear. You know, so much conversation has been going on already in regards to whether we should do it or not. I mean, we've got people who were speaking in front of the school committee, speaking in front of the town council, promoting that we were going to need a new high school in a couple of years. The school committee has said we will not need a new high school in Middletown in the next 10 years. We've just put all AC units in. We've put all new windows in. We've put all new entrances in. You know, we bought new technology for all the kids. I mean, overall, we're in a pretty solid position. And so let me just finish. And then, you know, so that's just one area I look at. In regards to the unification / collaboration, another thing I raised my hand on was we're already doing a lot of collaboration with Newport and unification with Portsmouth in regards to special ed and classes that we offer and classes that they offer. And we already have a system in place. And I don't understand why that isn't being expanded. I think the people who have been cheering unification, if they put that much energy into looking at what we're doing today, we could almost get there. you know, in regards to our kids being aware of what's available and maybe looking at the schools and maybe not physically needing to put the school, you know, kids in all in one school. Why couldn't they have two schools that offer different services and you didn't have to share the purse strings? I mean, no one's looked at that. But if that's going on today. But no one's looking at what's going on today. I wish there was this much energy behind looking at what's happening today. You know, you said you've been at this for 11 years and it hasn't changed. And the kids' grades are getting less and less. And you got East Bay that's trying to do something. You got the school that's trying to do something. We have a Beyond the Bell now. I've encouraged us to create a department within the town of Middletown to assist in helping kids with education after school. Paul was talking earlier that there's some students he's recognized that need some help out after school. And Paul, you know, these parents, you know, may be able to afford it, but if they can't afford the extra help, the child is going to be left behind. And so I'm encouraging we do something for the children today. And I wish the energy level that's behind this unification is targeted at what we're already doing today. And I posed a question to the school committee. I said, I'm not an educator. You're the educator. And you have no opinion on unification. How can I, as a town councilor, and we asked the folks in charge of unification to go back and talk to the school committee and get ask them to answer the question. Are they in favor of unification? Are they in favor of unifying the high schools? They're the educators. We're not the educators. They are. And so I would like to hear even a meeting between, I'd love to see a meeting between the two school committees to then come back and give us some ideas of what they're sharing amongst each other, because I don't necessarily see why the town council has to be involved at this point. There's a lot that can be done. The county council doesn't have to be involved. There's all kinds of volunteers. We got Hewitt, you know, he's right in there. Dick Adams is right in there. You're in there. East Bay's in there. I think you guys, if you pull it all together, can come up with a pretty good program to assist our children today, combine our resources between all the schools, and maybe come up with a solution, because we're also going to have to look at where these children are going to be going for a few years while this school's being built. Did they decide on another location? I've asked, did they decide on another location, or will they be building it right where the school is today?
I don't know what their situation is. They have been approved to build. They have not finalized their plans.
Okay, so that's just I talk with people about this, and I see I talk with the school committee, and they tell me what we're doing in special ed. They tell me what we're doing in STEM, what we're doing in robotics, what we're doing in the trade schools, and we're sharing resources across. We're sending Middletown state money over to Rogers and back and forth. So there is a lot of unification going on. We're just not putting all the kids, at this point, we're not putting all the kids in one spot. So again, I'd be interested in understanding what the Middletown School Committee's opinion is on this and whether they're for it or not. That would help me make a decision, you know, to participate. So that's it. Thank you.
Council Von Wills?
Yeah, I'm very interested in the fact that you see all of these separate initiatives taking place that you think are so successful when they're actually not. You've said that yourself. When you're trying to unify 5, 6, 7 different activities together and make them work for 100% of the kids, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. I've worked in regional schools. I can tell you it works in regional schools when they're all in the same place. The kids are all there. The curriculum is developed so that these kids get what they need, these kids get what they need, these kids get what they need, and they don't have to ride a bus to do it, and they don't have to stay after school to do it, and their parents don't have to bring them here or there or whatever to do it, or they don't have to bring in people to do it. It's all in the school there for the kids. And the kids who go out into the world are prepared to do whatever it is they have to do. whether it's robotics, whether it's, I don't know, I can't think of offhand, whether it's mechanics, whether it's carpentry, whether it's psychology, whether it's whatever. When it's all in the same place, all of the kids are serviced well. And I'm not saying to you that you should not do some of these small little things that you're talking about that will service these 6 kids or this dozen kids or this 30 kids. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that now while you're working towards the unity of bringing it together for all of the kids so that all of them get what they need. I'm not saying don't do that now, but that's a halfway measure. It's not even halfway. It's piecemeal. Everything is piecemeal. And when you go into, I've been there. I was the deputy superintendent for the largest school in Massachusetts, the largest school district in Massachusetts, a regional school district. And I can tell you that was the best school that I've ever been in, and it had the best program ever. And it was because the leadership, the superintendent knew what he was doing. Everybody was working together and the kids were prepared. And those kids, if you take a look at all of their results now, even now, you'll see that that school performs at an extremely high level. So what you're talking about is piecemeal this, piecemeal that. Yes, could we serve some of these kids? Could we help some of these kids? I don't want to do that. I want to serve all of the kids. I want to help all of the kids. And I will tell you, if you don't even discuss it, that says something about the limitations on your ability to see the future.
Okay, Barbara, again, I mean, I'm just putting my opinion out there, not criticizing what you're doing. This is what people have talked to me about. They're like, our kids are failing today.
Yes, they are.
And everyone wants to talk about unification. It's going to solve the problem.
No, you're missing.
Can I finish? Can I finish, please?
One at a time. Counselor Toronto.
Just let me finish, please.
Yes.
I'm just telling you what I'm hearing, okay? Now, I didn't say whether I agree with it or not. I'm just, there are people who believe that smaller classes are more effective. I know you're an expert at this, but there are other experts who say different. And I've seen that where kids get lost in big classes. I've seen it. I've seen children who thrive under smaller classes. So I'm just putting out that from my standpoint, I find it very hard that the school committee of Middletown does not have an opinion on this. And when I press them, they won't give me anything in writing, but they will tell me that not everyone agrees with it. And I said, well, you folks need to get with Newport School Committee and the Middletown School Committee and all these people who are chairing on unification and get your thoughts together and come back and then with something that would show the council that all the pieces are in place. I don't know why the town council would have to be on that committee. That's just my opinion. And so I'm not an educator, but I do know that the situations that are going in the no vote confidence of the school committee or the superintendent in Newport, the no vote confidence of our superintendents in Middletown, the attendance records, the performance records, and pulling them together and to believe that unification is going to make everything roses, I have a hard time believing. And so I just want to hear more from the experts. I'd like to hear more from the Middletown School Committee and what their opinion is of this. That's all I'd like to, before I can cast a vote to move forward, I would like to hear their opinion.
Councilor Von Billis.
Yes. I have difficulty with people that are looking for answers without asking the questions. You're asking for people to come in and express their opinion when they don't know what they're talking about. The whole point of this is not to unify. My point today is not telling you to unify. It's telling you to talk. It's telling you to get together with people and see if you can come up with something. And what would the council be thinking about? It would be talking about management, not administration. There's a difference between management and administration, okay? Administration is how you run the schools. We're not talking about that yet. That's 3 or 4 years down the line. That's after you've already established what you're trying to do. Our point now is looking ahead for the kids in the future and trying to create a situation that is going to be good for them. The words that I used here, okay, was if in fact you ask for excellence, you demand excellence, neither one, sorry, I hate to say this publicly, but neither one of those school systems demand excellence. What you do is you come together, you create a core, and when you've got your core built, answering the questions that you need to, that are council questions, location, financial, administration, that's not school committees, that's council stuff. And after you decide, yes, we will unify, then what you do is you put together people who know what they're talking about when it comes to curriculum and academics. And how do you create a program? I'm not saying to identify a program here. I'm saying get these people together so that they can unit, so that in fact you could develop a program that would be good for all. There's not a person in this town, okay, that I know of, there may be that I don't know of, that has had the level of experience that I have had, regional high schools, regional districts. And I will tell you, that's what you need to do to provide an excellent rounded education for all of your students, not just that college bound kid, and not just that kid that's going to be a mechanic, or the kid that's going to be a chef, or whatever, a business person. The kids that I deal with at the college level, not just those, not just the ones that are academically oriented, but the kids that work hands-on need also those other things. And talking about putting them together in sending them off, a half a dozen, send them off to this program or to that program, when you have to bust them to do it and it costs you more anyway, is just a waste of energy, time, and money. What I'm saying to you is set yourself a goal in the future. What we've stopped doing is we've stopped looking to the future. We're hanging on to the past, and we can't do that anymore. All I'm asking you to do is find out the information, and you can't do that if you don't ask. And I think ask together, work together. That's what we should be doing. I'm done.
Councilor Toronto.
And thank you for your enthusiasm. I appreciate it.
It's
And
not enthusiasm, it's passion.
in passion. And I've seen it over the last several years, and I've listened to it from, for all the folks that ran for council who are running on that platform, who are very interested in being elected to push that through. And so there's been a lot of talk, and there's a lot of programs out there that haven't really, East Bay said they just started working with Middletown to help these children. And I understand you want all the children. I get it. You're looking 5 years out. I'm a little bit stuck on today.
I'm looking at 1,200 kids, not 20 or 5.
That's fine. That's fine. I just want to say, I'm just Dennis Toronto, not Barbara where you are. I mean, you're great. You're over there doing that. You're looking long-term. I think we do look long-term at the town of Middletown because we just spent $5 million, $10 million on our schools. I think we look long-term. We just put $10 million into air conditioning units and windows and doors. And Middletown doesn't have any, I mean, Middletown currently has a good infrastructure for our schools and investment. We'll continue to invest. And the school committee did say that they're not going to need a new building in the next 5 to 10 years.
On the next
Now, I
5
know
years.
that doesn't work under your model in regards to if you bring them all together, that'll give you a different type of working environment. And again, I'd like to see the school committees come together because it will be the two school committees that are going to have to work together to figure this out. It's not going to be the town.
No, it's not the school
That's
committee.
just my opinion.
That's the thing.
That's just my opinion. That's all I'd like to hear is from our school committee and how they think this unification would help them better educate our children. That's what I'd like to hear from our school committee.
Okay.
We don't have a clue. Go ahead.
Any other comments? Okay, I'm gonna make a couple comments, and I think I have certainly the history and standing to do so. I remember this journey back in 2009. I remember the passion and the enthusiasm at that time that Councilor Von Villas had, and we established a committee with her, and at the time, Councilor Dick Adams. And they went out, and we gave them the latitude to go to different communities within the county and to speak with them. At that time, and it's 11 years ago, the attitude was not received from anyone else, but a lot has changed. Now, we talk about changes, and both of you and your conversations back and forth, Councilor Von Villas and Councilor Toronto, brought up some good points. One of them is the weigh-in from school committees. And yes, we have not heard any weigh-in from school committees. I haven't to date. I recall asking the school committee at one of our meetings to weigh in, and they did not weigh in on it. Now, for whatever reasons, maybe they don't believe it, maybe they're split, maybe some do, some don't. I'm not going to proceed to understand their logic and thought process. But I will say that in the last 11 years, a lot's changed. I have always been adamant against this statute, this Title 16. It takes, currently as it stands, it takes total financial controls away from cities and towns. That I am not going to sign on to. I wouldn't back then, nor would I today. I'm not in favor of allowing academic committee to basically run the financial institution or draw from any city and town. I don't think it's their forte, and I don't think they should ever be given that kind of power. I don't know where the legislators were when they signed off on that Title 16, but I would really like to hear from anybody back then, their initial thought process of why they would do something like that. I think it's a great deterrent, and I think it's a great deterrent, and it has been a deterrent to you, Councilor Von Villas, okay? Because roadblocks like that are hard to step over. There's always been hard to step over for me to step over. As we've gone through this last year with COVID-19, I have a little bit different perspective on certain things. We don't know where our education system is going to go. You know, today they started distributing the vaccine. A first responder, a nurse in New York City, was the first recipient of it, and it's going to trickle out through the rest of the country. How long it's going to take, how effective it is, we don't know. Are there going to be any negative aspects of the vaccine that we don't know yet? Because it could take years to find out. We don't know where we're going. We certainly know one thing, is that the cases in Rhode Island are off the wall. I mean, they're high. Our COVID rate is the worst in the country. And we have to address it. And I think it's a battle that we're still in. This is something that's going to be around with us for a long time. How this will affect our academic future, I don't know. But I do know that for whatever reasons, I think I understand that you've asked Senator DePalma and Representative Ruggiero to immediately get on board and carry the buckets of water. I'm not sure if the buckets of water will get carried, meaning that I'm not really sure if the rest of our Senate and the rest of our House will buy into the same logic. Perhaps they will, perhaps they won't. I don't know. I don't know where it's gonna go with them.
Can I just add one thing in regard to that?
Not have you interrupt me. I'll let
No, I just wanted to clarify for you. When we talked, the both of them, when we talked, it was not a matter of changing the legislation. It was a matter of writing the legislation specifically for Middletown and Newport.
Okay, so, thank you for answering that, because I thought it was to
No,
pass the change in the current legislation, so, but let me just finish. At this time, I don't really have a problem with discussion, but I am adamant about if there's any discussion that is non-committal, that it's discussion. I agree with Councilor Toronto on the inavailability of the school committees to take a position on this, okay? If they have, I apologize. They haven't to me, and I've asked the question bluntly and directly, and they've never given me an answer where they were with this. However, maybe discussion is the opportunity to bring them to the table and to get the feedback from them that everybody has been seeking out for a number of years now. And we've been seeking out their feedback for a number of years. Maybe that would come out of this. Maybe some other ideas or thoughts would come out of this. I'm not even sure, and I'm not going to speak for them, if Newport would even consider this since they got their bond. Unless you're thinking about another school district that you'd like to reach out to. But I'm not even sure once they got their bond if they would even want to start their process over. I don't know if they would, and I'm not going to speak for them. Do I think we could extend the conversation or sit down and have the conversation? I think we could, and I would support it under defined understandings with all people involved, that it is exactly that. It's Bob Sylvia, Dennis Toronto, and Barbara Von Villa sitting down with three people and having a conversation that is non-binding or non-committal. Okay, I don't have a problem with that, and I can, I applaud your passion, like has been mentioned earlier by the Vice President and Councilor Toronto, for wanting to do this over the years. I've walked this walk with the aunt, Councilor Von Villas, who's been moving this rubber tree plant. We've been walking this walk together, okay? And I will be the first one to candidly say today, I've always been adamantly against it because of the reasons I've always defined and have mentioned. I am not going to take any chances at exposing the financial solvency of our town to risk. Do I want to see our kids better educated? Absolutely, okay? And if it's, I'm not an educator, I'll be the first one to admit it. And if it's by having more children and by having more academic curriculums to put them in different classes, if that does it, so be it. I also agree with historically where our academic results have been. And I'm going to tell you, we got to do something, because our academic results are not going up. They're going down. And we have to address it one of these days. And I think it's a discussion over this and a potential discussion of where we're going to go and how we're going to get there. I don't have a problem with it, and I would support it. But I do have a problem if there's Title 16 involved, and I do have a problem if there's any other parties at the table that are not members, currently members of a council or a school committee. I would be adamantly against any other people at the table, unless it's people that were called in for expert testimony or to ask, for us to ask questions of if a committee was to be found. I do not want any, I want the complete understanding for me to support it. I don't want any other people at that table. Council Von Villas, you won't let me finish, will you? Go ahead.
But I'm just, you say so many things that I do have the answers for. And so I sometimes have to put them in. But as you know from the memo that I added to the docket, I am not interested in a large committee. Large committees get lost, they accomplish nothing. My motion would be, if I get that far, my motion would be a very limited committee of 2 council people from each town and 1 school committee member. So that you'd be talking about 6 people that would be sitting down using other people, you know, the administrative people and so forth for consultation. But the committee itself would be 6 people. And they would be officials of the towns.
A non-binding,
Yes, absolutely.
open conversation.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I got a motion.
make it a motion.
You ready?
I'm ready. Is any other further conversation? Our solicitor wants to weigh in. Pete, unmute yourself and weigh in.
So just so I understand before any motions are made and voted on, Councilor Von Villas, is your suggestion just to set up an informal committee or subcommittee, or are you asking to create a planning committee under Chapter 16?
It would basically be a planning committee under according to Chapter 16. It would be looking at all of the issues that would be related to the development of a unified high school. So that's why the participants would be people who are familiar with the municipal authority, who are familiar with the school, authority, and they would be coming together and talking about things that they actually knew what they were talking about. As people who very often participate in committees don't know what they're talking about, and they end up just spinning their wheels. So this would be a small unified committee that would be using information from their own council people or their own people in their system, or if they had to ask consultants or something like that, they would be doing that, but they would be doing the discussing. It would not be an open committee. It would be a planning committee, so to speak.
And you want to tie it to Title 16?
Well, that's part of the adjustment, but what I'm saying to you is, I believe that because it is so important that the legislation be changed, that the only way that I would support the committee is if there was an agreement on both sides that they would seek the legislative change. That would be a starting point.
Understood, but why would you initially want to have this initial discussion committee, non-discussion committee, in any way affiliated or tied into Title 16? You can talk about anything.
But it's unified.
Yeah, so you can.
There's no point in having the discussion and then say, oh, but we have to change the legislation. That's too late. You have to do it concurrently. You have to say, okay, we'll meet with you so long as we have this common understanding that that's going to be a part of it. And then that works on the side. That's happening while you're developing what you need to develop. Because I'm not looking for this to be finished in 2025. I would like to see this, if you're going to have a committee working on something important like this, finally, that it would come to a special election in November.
But it has to.
Not going to play. Not going to play in a sandbox. This is going to be work.
I appreciate that. But why can't there be conversation amongst the parties without saying that it's going to be in line or an addendum or a request to eliminate Title 16? Why can't we have a conversation about it and see where that conversation goes?
Well, we can, but at the same time, my sense was that this town council wouldn't even talk about it if there wasn't some movement in regard to Title 16.
I believe and he can correct me if I'm wrong, what the council president is suggesting, that he might be in favor of a informal committee to have a preliminary discussion before actually creating a planning committee under Title 16, which in my opinion would be allowable.
I saw you, Vice President. I'll get to you. Let me just kind of finish my thought process, because
Yeah, what works?
Barbara keeps jumping up like a whack-a-mole. You know? The problem that I have, Council Buil, okay, is that I personally will support this if it's discussion and not tied into Title 16. I don't want to go in and critique Title 16.
Oh, no.
Let me finish.
Okay.
I'd like to have that opportunity tonight.
All right.
I would like to have a discussion and get the feeling from the council, whatever council we're going to be dealing with, potentially. We may not be dealing with any. Okay? Or the school committee feedback, and then take it from those conversations to decide, come back to the council and decide where we're going. But I think you haven't helped your cause by saying to me, I'd like this under the umbrella of Title 16. I want to stay away from the Title 16 umbrella. I would like to, let's take one step at a time.
Okay.
And I know you want this done tonight, legislation change tomorrow, and start building a new school, but it's not going to happen that fast. You know that, I know that. There's a lot of things to do. So let's be fair and honest with everybody. Discussion, yes, I will support. Okay? And we see where it goes from there. But without any umbrella of Title 16, which you just alluded to.
All right. I just want the door to be open. Just try to open the door.
Okay, Vice President.
That's what I'm afraid of. And only from the sense, Mrs. Vaughn, I think, you know, it's just my opinion and people I speak to, the majority of Middletowners still don't want regionalization.
Oh,
I know there was a petition of 1,200 signatures, people out in front of Shores. A lot of people signed those things because they knew the person there. People told me that, but that's here or there, right? I've had people tell me I moved to Middletown and settled in Middletown because I didn't want Newport school system. You know, as I listened to Dennis, he brought up some good points, and him and I actually had this conversation one time in the past couple of years where, you know, I'd like to see our school, not to prolong anything, but, you know, you're an expert, I'm not an expert. They're experts, you know, will this work? How will it work? You know, we get no commitment from them. It doesn't save, so I start looking at the facts. It doesn't save money, and I know that's not what it's about, but perception out there among people that don't know thinks, oh, we can combine and we're going to save money. That's not, it doesn't do that. We have two there's two, I hate to use the word failing, there's two subpar school systems. And I'm not sure if you put them together, you're going to have a good school system. Now you bring up a great point by saying we need to demand excellence.
Leadership.
And excellence. Leadership's the key, but excellence. Why can't we demand that in our own school system now? And why aren't we? And I know you can't answer that, or maybe you have your own opinion to that, and I'm not asking for that. I'm just asking, bringing up some points. You know, but the biggest thing always for me has been the financial risk. I certainly don't, and I know that's your point, I certainly don't want non-Middletown residents making financial decisions for Middletown. I would never, ever, ever, and that was the driving force behind, for me, coupled with other things, facts, that why I didn't support that and wouldn't support the discussion and even wouldn't open that door. Opening that door makes me very nervous. Now, I know your intention is to want to change Article 16, whether that happens or not, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. The lawyer's sitting over here in the bottom left screen. But my gut tells me you're still, when you're having these discussions, you would still be operating under Article 16 until it's changed. That's my opinion. And I'm not, and at this point, until it was changed, not willing to do that. And you give a committee, and not the committee you're requesting, but the committee under Article 16 has way too much power, way too much. And if regionalization was so good, why isn't every community doing it? Why isn't Cranston West and Cranston East doing it? You know, two separate high schools in the same city, and it's larger, so I know it's not apples for apples. But those are just some of my thoughts, you know?
Okay. Are we gonna move this along? Are you gonna make a motion, Councilor Von Villis?
Well, yeah, I was, but I think I'm gonna have to sort of alter my motion a little based on the discussion.
Whatever you would like to do.
Okay. I have two motions, that the Middletown Town Council invite the Newport City Council to engage in discussions, to engage in preliminary discussions regarding potential high school unification. I don't know. The part that I had here, with the caveat that all parties support an amendment to the legislation or whatever, authorizing equal representation for both communities. So do I want to leave that last part off and just ask for the discussions?
I would, personally, I would prefer that.
Okay,
I don't want to in any way take a step on the path of Title 16.
that I'm sorry, I missed it.
I don't want to put my foot on the path
Okay,
of
okay.
Title 16.
All right, that the Middletown Town Council invite the Newport City Council to engage in preliminary discussions regarding potential high school unification.
Okay, I'll second that. Discussion.
Discussion.
I know we've been talking about this for quite a bit of time now, but any further discussion? Just as long as I understand, this has not, I got you, Councilor Trump. That has nothing to do with Title 16.
Okay,
It's just, let's sit down at the table. Let's invite people to the table. Nobody may come to our party, Councilor Von Villis,
right, I know.
okay? Nobody may come. But if they do, then we sit down at the table. There's only representation from sitting councils
Mhm.
and sitting school committee members only. No other representation from any
Nobody else.
rogue organizations or anybody else.
Nothing.
That I personally could support. Okay? Now, we have a motion and it's been seconded. Councilor Toronto.
Thank you, Mr. President. will there be any discussion? And I've had people say, why won't you talk about it? And I go, we'll talk about it. I think there's a lot of people talking about it. Now, you want to put a committee together to start outlining the format of what this conversation needs to entail, to come back to the council to make a discussion in regards to whether we go into formal binding, meetings under Article 16. But by that time, you're saying that Article 16 will be changed, or there'll be some other legislation in place that will give us equal share in when it comes to financial decisions or decisions within this unified high school. Is that what you're saying?
Go ahead, Council Bundles.
The way this conversation has gone tonight, it seems to me that all we're doing is talking about preliminary discussions to see if we even have enough in common to talk about.
That I would support.
If we have anything in common.
Nothing.
If we have any mutual interests that are worth talking about. I don't know how to say it any other way. I mean,
Let me just help you out. My perception is this. We may send invitations out and nobody may come to the party,
that's right.
okay? Newport may not want to get involved, Portsmouth may not want to get involved, whomever may not want to get involved, okay? So it'd be senseless. As long as only our invitation is for discussion only.
Okay, can I?
Councilman Villas.
Well, the only thing that I would add to that is you've got to limit the number of people that are going to be sitting down and talking. And my second emotion was going to be 2 council people and 1 school committee person from each community. So you're talking about people sitting at a dining room table size, okay, that are actually having a conversation about whether or not they think they can even work their way to an agreement about certain things.
I could live with that. Mr. Solicitor?
My only suggestion about saying it's got to be 2 council people and 1 school committee person from each side. My only concern is that is the formula, that's the setup in Title 16. So my suggestion would be that you can say, fine, it's going to be 3 people on each side, but I wouldn't dictate.
Don't put that in the
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. Good point. Thank you, Solicitor. Councilor Toronto?
I guess my question will there be any discussion in regards to what's happening today? Because I think if you're not going to form that, I might make a motion this evening to form a committee to actually look at what we're going to do today to help our children weather this storm that we're in today, and what can we do today to increase their scores and or their activities going forward so they're ready for the real world when they launch out of Middletown High School or out of Newport.
Good points, but the docket item that we're discussing right now is the docket item. I think that'd be.
Will there be any of that discussion though on this group of people who are going to be meeting?
That would not be the purpose of this conversation.
Okay.
That could continue just like you were talking about with MEDAC. That kind of development could continue, because when you're talking about making something like this happen, you're not talking about it happening a year or 2 years down the line. This takes a long time. So what you need to do is you need to have things happening at the same time. You need to be working on the future while you're working on the present. So that's a whole different thing. And I'm not discouraging you from doing that. I think you ought to be doing that. But I think we always have to be looking to the future.
Is there any way you're willing to maybe table this for maybe the next meeting? Give me some time to talk with folks and better think it through a little bit rather than just having it this evening?
You know, 2009, I've been working on this, okay? We've been at this for 1.5 years when this first started way back, okay? Enough is enough is enough. All I want is a conversation. All I want is a conversation.
I just thought there are other people who might want to put a little feedback in on this conversation, that's all.
We've been talking about it forever.
Council members who aren't here, and there's other council members who aren't weighing in at this point, so I was just curious if we wanted to wait to hear
There's
it one more
two
time.
other
This is
council
the
members
first
here.
we're hearing of it. I just thought maybe we'd hear it again. I'm sure there's going to be some residents who have opinions on this, and I'd like to hear what their opinions are. Trust me, I've had a lot of people come to me and talk to me about this. I would like to talk with these folks, the representatives of the people who are asking me to meet, and I've told them I'm willing to talk. I'm just not going to do it under Article 16. It's not going to be a mandate, multiple cut, and I've gone to this. I have been asking the school committee for over 3 months to answer the question for me. I am not getting any feedback. I'm really concerned that they are not behind this. And if the Middletown School Committee is not behind this, this is going to fail. So why are we going to go spend all this time? I mean, if you can drag them to the table, but here we're not even going to say who it's going to be made up of. So this is, Barbara, I understand you're not appreciating what I'm saying, but these are the concerns that the people are talking to me about.
Okay, good points, but we're not gonna proceed to know what the school committee's thinking. We don't know what the thoughts are on this, and we'll see. Vice President, did you have your hand up a minute ago?
I did. I was going to respond to Mrs. Vaughn, but I'm not going to now. I mean, I think she said since 2009, she's right. We've talked and talked and talked and talked about this. I mean, I'm ready to vote on it right now. I mean, we can continue it on, and I just don't know what that's going to do, Dennis. I don't think it's going to change anybody's opinion. It's my opinion that, we still operate on Article 16, no matter how you shake it out until it's changed. That's what we're operating under. We can try and put it in our own words, but you're still operating under Article 16 currently.
You
Okay,
don't have to agree to it. I'm sorry, you don't have to agree to it.
you don't want to, okay, you don't want to tweak your motion. Your motion, could you repeat it one more time?
That the Middletown Town Council invite the Newport City Council to engage in discussions regarding potential high school unification.
Okay. Vice President.
Karen, does somebody have their hand raised? I just got a text message from a school committee member that says she has her hand raised. Who? Teresa does, Bob.
Okay, let's do this. You made the motion. I'm gonna second your motion. Discussion. School committee member, Teresa Spangler, would you like to weigh in? I have no visibility of Teresa at all.
Let me work with Karen. Karen,
Is
she's
she-
in. Here she comes.
Okay. Teresa Spangler?
You're on mute, Teresa.
Okay, can you hear me?
There you
Yes.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I've been listening to the conversation and I appreciate the few minutes, and I'll be very brief. I just wanted to comment on that you have said, some people have said that you haven't heard from the school committee. And I did want to respond to that because I've been around long enough to know when it was on the ballot and the communities had spoken at the time and said they didn't want to regionalize. But when the Newport superintendent brought this up a second time just a few years ago, they went directly, that the school administration from Newport went directly to the town council, did not come to the school committee. And at the time we did talk at the meeting. I wasn't chair at the time, so I didn't say too much, but I am again now. So I certainly would like to discuss this further. I don't know who else is on tonight. I know the superintendent is not on the meeting tonight. So I would like to talk with her further and see about having more discussion on this. But that is part of why we have not been involved is because we weren't invited to the dialogue, to the table for discussion with Newport. So they went directly to you, the Middletown Town Council. But I think a big part of, in my opinion, and I'm not speaking for everybody, was that when the community had voted to, voted down that on the ballot, or that election period time, and that election was, I think that we felt as people had spoken in the community. So if the town council feels that it should be discussed again, then I certainly would want to be part of that discussion. I have to say that I think that 2 town council members and 1 school committee person, or however you want to do that, I don't think that's equitable. I think if you're going to have this discussed with the school people, there needs to be more school people. There needs to be a school administration team. There needs to be school committee members, not just 1. I agree with not having outside people, but I think you need to have some admin people on the table, at the table, to make it viable and have some validity to it when you're talking about statistics and data and numbers and finances and managerial aspects of it. So that's just my opinion on it, and I appreciate you allowing me to have a couple of minutes to speak.
Thank you, and congratulations on being the chair again.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're gonna move on. We've spent a lot of time on this
Yep.
conversation already, and, you know, we have a motion and it's been seconded. Does anybody need the motion repeated, or is everybody good with it? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Aye?
There are 2 other council people that are on mute.
They may be on mute for a reason.
Well, they've been throughout the whole time.
Okay. Okay. 2 in favor. Any, those opposed, please raise your hand. Okay. So 2 for and 2 against. Is that how you have it?
Mr. Chair, we should confirm the position of the Councilman Welch and Councilor Santos. So
But
that they're still with us.
Councilman Welch had let us know that he'd be stepping off the meeting throughout the meeting. I don't know if he's there. Councilor Santos, I don't know if Councilor Santos has ever been on it tonight. Okay, 2 and 2, the motion fails. Okay? All right. Town Administrator, number 42, email communication from Chief Cure, MPD, rules and regulations regarding tattoos.
Motion to receive said email communication.
Have a motion, has it been seconded? I'll second it. All in favor to receive, signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
Number 43. Middletown Police Department draft tattoo and body modification policy.
Motion to adopt said tattoo and body modification policy.
Okay, do we have a second? I'll second it. Chief Cure, you want to make, if you're on, you want to make any comments? If not, does any council want to make any comments in regards to it?
Mr. President, I don't believe Chief Cure is on. Just very quickly, the town charter, section 701 requires the town council to approve rules and regulations at the police department. So the chief has proposed a new regulation, a broader regulation than what existed previously. This regulation is more current as far as the type of tattoos and other body modifications that we see in society. The policy itself helps maintain the professional image of the police department. It allows us to expand our recruitment for qualified candidates, and it is consistent with policies that are being adopted by police departments throughout the region. Just for the council's note, the policy proposed by the chief has been reviewed by the department's uniform committee. It has been reviewed by the union, and it has been reviewed by the town's labor council. within the solicitor's office. So it has gone through a very thorough review process before being brought to you tonight for approval.
Okay. All right, we have a motion that has been seconded to adopt the said tattoo and body modification policy. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ayes have it. Okay, item number 44, memorandum from the town administrator, RIAC, General Aviation Strategic Business Plan, feedback.
Motion to receive said memorandum.
Second,
Okay, we have motion and a second to receive. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Brown, did you want to make any brief comments on that, or I think it speaks for itself?
It does. If the council has any comments about what they would like to see developed in the future, or how they would like to see the airport developed in the future, please let me know. The airport actually is going through a process of seeking input from the public directly. We have their meeting that they had just scheduled was postponed, but we'll continue to monitor that and notify the community when they can provide that feedback when those meetings are rescheduled.
You keep it posted on our website. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Item number 45, memorandum of the town planner, cost estimate, Purgatory Road, sidewalk design and construction.
Motion to receive said memorandum.
Have a second? I'll second it.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item number 46, resolution of the council, Purgatory Road, sidewalk design and construction.
Motion to pass said resolution.
second,
Give it a second. Any conversation? Vice President.
Sean, just, where are these funds coming from, the additional funds?
So what we're proposing right now is that $461,000 would come from essentially the Parks and Recreation Fund. This would be from the Capital Replenishment Fund, the extra money that we collect at the gate to make capital improvements. And we're recommending that it come there because it really is connecting not only our commercial district, but the neighborhoods in that area to the beach.
I agree.
So we see that as an important improvement overall to the infrastructure and connecting our beach to our residents. The $103,000 is coming from the money that the council set aside this year for ditch abatement or drainage abatement. We talked earlier, I think this was a proposal you brought forward, looking at ditches that cause a hazard for people walking. So we actually identified just what portion of the project was related to ditch abatement. And we're recommending the $103,000 come from that allocation of dollars.
Okay.
So those are the two pots of money. And as we get further along, we'll revise those amounts, but I didn't want to proceed without the council's authority, and also to give you an idea where the funding would come from.
Yeah, I had read that and I just wanted to make it public knowledge, but I think it's just another great example of the state and the town collaborating together, DOT and the town, to be able to get this project done to improve the safety of Purgatory Road, especially the amount of joggers, walkers, the pedestrians that go up and down there, especially during the beach seasons. You know, we are talking from March through, November, December. Who knows now the way the weather's been. But not only that, but that kind of leads me, I know it's not on the docket, Peter, just give me some latitude here for a second. Thanking you in advance for that. I'm going to be putting something on the docket for those improvements, Sean, that you just spoke to, so that we have a plan in place, or at least we know what the plan is potentially. I'm really targeting Paradise Avenue because those two kind of the two main thoroughways from safety. So it's not on the docket, but that'll be coming up in the next meeting.
Okay, Councilor Toronto.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Sean, if I remember right, was the state going to pay more than this when initially, and we actually put some money towards this to speed up the process, to do like some of the design work? Did we?
No, the state allocated $640,000 in their TIP project. So the state TIP project is 5072. So that was the amount requested and awarded.
Okay. Okay, so I for some reason was recalling that if the project was going to stall out unless we could fund the, the design of it. And then if we did the design, then they would pay for it. Am I thinking of a different project?
Wasn't that the Green End project? Originally?
All of these projects have a component, the intersections at Green End and Aquidneck, Green End and Valley, Lower Aquidneck, they all have the same. We're basically taking on responsibility for the engineering so that we can get the additional monies.
Okay, that's what it was. Okay. And then, no, I think this is a great project. Obviously, I live in the area. I see people walking up and down that street all the time. The road itself is a little bit compromised, those ditches, it's kind of, will there be any repaving on that street as well? Or it will just be kind of fixed to tie to the sidewalk?
This is focused on the sidewalks.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion to second to pass the resolution. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Item number 47, Executive Order 2020-17, extension of the state emergency in Middletown through and including January 19, 2021.
Motion to extend the state of emergency in Middletown through and including January 19, 2021.
Second.
Second. Okay, any conversation? Vice President.
Sean, the town hall is open, right?
Town hall is not open with the pause guidance. We have not opened it. However, we do have an employee stationed actually in the foyer, assisting people directly when they come to the door, and making certain that they're not waiting around outside. But we are in complying with the guidance from the governor as it relates to the pause right now, which has us in a position where we have not expanded the opening.
All right.
I don't want you to take this as me being smart or wise, but I thought the pause was more towards restaurants, bars, that kind of thing, not town halls.
Well, again, I forwarded the council several copies of the guidance from the governor's office about offices. Offices do have restrictions on them. They've put further restrictions on the opening of offices.
Okay. I just don't want people waiting outside in the cold,
There is strict guidance to the staff that, and the people will not be waiting outside. That's why we have someone in the foyer. And if someone does need to wait, they can wait in their car, or we'll accommodate them in the building, but no one will be waiting outside.
Okay. So when do you plan on reopening?
It really is dependent on the situation in the state. We currently have the highest per capita COVID case rate in the country. We're following the guidance from the governor's office and the Department of Health. As soon as we see some relief, well, we will open up. I think that's the situation we're in, but it is a difficult time with the numbers that are escalating right now.
Okay, thank you.
I know those guidelines are pretty clear. Sean gets them, I get them, I send them out. Sean gets them, he sends them out. But it's a tough argument when they're telling people to close. It's a tough argument.
No, I understand that, but a lot of these same people, they're in Home Depots, they're shopping, you know what I mean?
Well,
So,
I agree.
I understand.
Okay. All right, we have a motion to the second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Boards and committees. Item number 48. Appointment of one member to the Open Space and Fields Committee, 2 vacancy terms expiring November 2023, and 2 vacancies terms expiring November 2021.
Okay, so we had one applicant to this point. A motion to appoint Christopher Logan to the Open Space and Fields Committee, term expiring November 2023.
Second.
Second. Okay, I think Chris will be an asset to that committee. I think it'll be a good committee that he's on. So
Awesome.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item number 49, appointment of one member to the Conservation Commission, 2 vacancies, terms expiring July 2023.
Okay, we've had one applicant apply. Motion to appoint Melissa A. Welch to the Conservation Commission for a term expiring July 2023.
Second. Okay, any conversation? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Right?
Item number 50, communication of Jamie Lahane, Jr., MPH, President and CEO, resignation from the Middletown Prevention Coalition.
Motion to receive said resignation with regret.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item number 51, Council President appointments of town council representatives to various boards and commissions.
Okay, please bear with me on this motion. It's lengthy. Motion to appoint Councilor Flynn as liaison to the Aquidneck Island Planning Commission, which is known as the AIPC. Motion to appoint Council President Sylvia and Vice President Rodriguez, Councilor Von Villas as member of the Audit Committee, with Councilor Santos appointed alternate for the Audit Committee. Motion to appoint Councilor Flynn and Councilor Santos as liaisons to the Beach Commission. Motion to appoint Council President Sylvia, Vice President Rodriguez, and Councilor Santos to the Budget Subcommittee. Motion to appoint Councilor Flynn as liaison to the Chamber of Commerce. Motion to appoint Councilor Santos as member of the Citizens Memorial Committee. Motion to appoint Councilor Toronto and Councilor Von Villas as members of the Economic Advisory Committee. Motion to appoint Councilor Von Villas as liaison to the Library Board of Trustees. Motion to appoint Councilor Welch as the liaison to the Middletown Prevention Coalition. Motion to appoint Councilor Toronto as liaison to the Newport and Bristol County Convention and Visitors Bureau, or known as Discover Newport. Motion to appoint Councilor Welch and Councilor Toronto as liaisons to the Open Space and Field Committee. Motion to appoint Vice President Rodriguez as member of the Pension Trust Fund Investment Committee. Motion to appoint Councilor Welch as liaison of the Roads and Utilities Advisory Committee. Motion to appoint Councilor Santos and Councilor Toronto as liaisons to the School Committee.
Second. Okay. All in favor, signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, before the Vice President makes his last motion, I'd like to wish you all happy holidays. We will not be having a meeting Thursday night, the 17th. There's no need for it.
Hey. Whoops, Sean.
Mr. Brown.
I'm sorry, we do have one executive session item that we would need to address Thursday.
Is it a necessary need to address Thursday, or is this something that could be held off until July 4th? I mean, January 4th.
It needs to be addressed. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, why don't we, while I have the council here, is this something that we could do during the day? We could do in the early afternoon, that people could call in on, not have it at 7 o'clock at night. It's one item, right?
It is one item for executive session.
Right, okay. And I think maybe we do it earlier on, during the day on the 17th. Any thoughts on that from anybody? Vice President?
Can we do it after this meeting?
Hey,
Gotta be,
Why can't we just go back into executive?
It's not on the agenda, so. as far as I know.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well,
Yes.
if it's personnel related, well,
yeah.
never mind.
Would everybody be available for, let's say, Thursday, the 17th, a call-in? We did that the last time, like a midday call-in, like a noontime call-in. For those of you that didn't call in, we'll miss you.
That was me. I'm sorry. It's a tough, work is,
Right.
it's
But this
on.
short, correct, Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Yeah, it should be short. I mean, Councilor Von Villas, how do you feel
Yeah,
about
probably.
it? Okay. Councilor Brown? Okay, I don't know if Councilor Welch is on, is not on. I don't have him. Councilor Santos. I'm going to ask the clerk to post a midday, a noontime, just call-in number. I don't foresee this taking any more than 10 minutes. Okay? Having said that, okay, best holiday wishes to everybody and your families. And please stay safe. Mr. Vice President.
Merry Christmas as well, everybody, and really good job tonight. So having said that, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.